Genesis chapter 6. Even just looking behind me, like, who am I to speak at the heroes of faith? Just thinking about what that means. An idea of, what does it actually mean to be a hero? What does it mean? What does it take for somebody to do something heroic? I think when I look through the Bible, sometimes it doesn't always take bravery. Sometimes it just takes plain stupidity. Okay, so I want you to walk around Jericho for 7 days or 7 times. That didn't take much bravery. That was just a stupid plan, but it worked. Sometimes it doesn't always take a plan for victory. Sometimes it just takes that one decision that you're going to stand up for God in your convictions. And I think about even my story. My name is Sean, and yes, I have been on the mission field to Sydney, Australia. I'm super grateful for that. But my story isn't so heroic how I got there. I wish I could spice it up a bit. So what happened was, 2 years ago, sitting in Starbucks, twiddling the thumbs away, I get a phone call. They asked me, do I want to go? I said yes, and then I went. That was pretty much about it. I wish I had some difficulty in the phone. I couldn't swipe it to answer the phone call, or you know, how to get on a jitney to go over there. It wasn't a very heroic story, but I think the decision sometimes makes the hero. So in Genesis chapter 6, I'm going to be talking about Noah. My lesson today is Noah blameless among the people of his time. We're going to look at what made Noah a hero. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, give me the backstory here. It says, the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil by the time. The Lord regretted that he had made the human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Doesn't that last sentence just stir your heart a bit right there? See, here it describes the people as they have started to go against their design. God had created people to love Him and to love each other. But yet we find that God now finds out that He is regretting that He designed the humans. Because they went against it. They no longer had love in their heart, nor in their actions. Yet we find here that Noah was blameless among the people. It describes in the Bible that Noah was a righteous man, that he was blameless, that he walked faithful with God. But I think what's really awesome about this is when we look about Noah being blameless and different from the people, he was not just different from the world, but when I started to research and look into Noah's life, he is different from every hero in the Bible. We're going to be looking at the challenges that he had to face from God. But I think about it. Here's God talking about, I'm going to get rid of the whole earth, bringing a great challenge to Noah. Think, how is he different from the other heroes? You remember when Abraham was called to sacrifice his son? Right before he was about to bring down the blade, God stopped him. He said, no, I was just testing you. God didn't do that with Noah. God didn't say, build the whole ark. And he's like, now that you built the ark, it was just a test. Have you ever had one of those just amen moments with your disciple? Oh, yeah. Bro, it was just a test. Everything's amen, God. God didn't do that with Noah. He brought judgment. I think about when Moses was challenged to save all his people, what he was called to do. He was called to save everyone from slavery, all his people, and he was promised freedom and a great promised land. Noah didn't have the same promises. His enemy was not slavery. his enemy was something totally different. While most people were fighting against an enemy, be that the Canaanites or the Egyptians, Noah was facing something different. So we're going to continue reading on here in verse 11. It says, "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch, inside and out." This is just an amazing challenge that God gives Noah here. That he says, I have seen the earth, and it has become corrupted. I regret their design, and I'm getting rid of all of them. The only thing I promise you is salvation. The only thing that I have to offer you is to be saved and to be rescued. My point number one, blameless in faith and fear. Blameless in faith and fear. See, when he was called to build the ark, this thing, it had to be built in faith and fear. He describes it as, he had to build this thing, it was 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Noah was not like a boat builder or anything. He randomly just came up to him and did it. Noah had to have faith doing that. And also, he had to have fear. You know why? Because God didn't care so much about safety inspections. What I mean about that, he says, okay, I want you to build this ark. Now what you're going to put on it is, you're going to have one door. You're going to have one roof. And don't worry about it. There's not going to be a captain helm or even a rudder to steer it. Pretty much what I want you to do is, I want you to build this big box and get in. Amen. That's all that God gave him. And I'm just thinking, like, Noah had to have a lot of faith and also fear of what he was doing. If we drop down here in Genesis 6, verse 17, it says, I'm going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under heaven, every creature that has breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wives and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of every living creature, male and female, to keep with them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and stored away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. I think about the design of the ark. I wonder if it was a little bit different in the beginning. If God went to Noah, and all he cared about was just saving him and his family. So he's like, okay, Noah, I want you to build an ark. I want you to make it 10 cubits long, 3 cubits wide, 5 cubits high. This is for you and your family. Make sure to bring some food as well. Then the wife comes along. God, what about the animals? That is true, Noah's wife. Noah, I want you to build an ark, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. You can just see one tear just falling from Noah's eyes. How am I going to do this? But yet it describes here, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. How different he is from every other hero in the Bible. Remember when Abraham was challenged and understood that there was judgment coming on Sodom and Gomorrah? And what was his response? God, if there's just 5 righteous people, please, can you save them? Can you spare them? Noah was facing judgment for the entire world. He did everything just as God commanded him. When Abraham was confronted that he was going to have a son, 100 years old, he says, will a son be born to a man of 100 years old, questioning God's ability? Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Because Abraham doubted, so did Sarah. She straight up laughed in God's face. How am I going to give born to a son? Noah did everything just as God commanded him. When Moses was chosen by God to lead his people out of Egypt, he says, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" Questioning God who he has chosen. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Does that describe you? I want to understand that. So what made Noah different from every other hero? Well, they questioned, he obeyed. Turn to Hebrews 11, chapter 7. Hebrews 11, verse 7. It reads here, "By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became an heir to the righteousness that is keeping with faith." Come on. It says here the thing that describes Noah, way different from every other hero. If you look in chapter 11, Noah is the only hero there that said he obeyed out of fear. He's the only hero in the whole entire chapter. See, Noah was able to obey God because he had a great fear of God. And the only thing that he had to fear, it wasn't the Egyptians. It wasn't the Canaanites. There was no other enemy out there that he was afraid of. He was simply afraid of God's judgment. And that's what makes him different from everybody else. He did not fear anything else in his life. He feared God and focused on God alone. And how we fight against God's judgment sometimes. Have you ever fought against God's judgment? You know, we say things as like, the world isn't so bad. It's not that bad. God didn't have to destroy the whole world. Why do bad things happen to good people? What's going on there, God? You messing up here. Turn to 2 Peter chapter 2. See, there's this great society, this great government that was out there. Most people might know about them a little bit, but they did some actually amazing things that were first in the history. The first thing they did is they banned live animal experiments. This is the first government to do that. First of its kind. It was the first one to promote animal conservation. This is a great government. It actually had one of the most expensive and effective anti-tobacco movement throughout history in fighting against drug use. It had this amazing welfare program where it would actually get the officials of the Army and the Navy, and as well as the citizens, and every single month they'll go around into the community, knocking on doors and asking for things to donate to homeless and needy people. Can you guess what government that was? It was actually the Nazis. Even the Nazis did something right. Yet we don't remember that. God doesn't remember those little things because of the wickedness of the world. In 2 Peter 2, verse 4, it says, "For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood on his ungodly people, but protected Noah, a righteousness preacher, the 7 others, if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah by burning them to ashes, and made them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, and if he rescued Lot, a righteous man, who was distressed by the deprived conduct of the lawless, for that righteous man, living among them day after day, was tormented in his righteous soul by the lawless deeds he saw and heard. If that is so, then God knows how to rescue the godly from trials, and knows how to hold the unrighteous for punishment on the day of judgment. This is especially true of those who follow corrupt desires of the flesh and despise authority. It says here in a New Testament, New Covenant scripture, that God is still the same God, still having the same judgment. That when we fight against God's judgment, it's kind of like defending the Nazis. They're not so bad. Look at all the animals they saved. No, we don't recognize that. I think if you trust in God's rewards, you also have to trust in His punishments. Right. I think about it because there were other sailors and ships in the day of Noah. It wasn't just because Noah had the boat that saved him. It wasn't that. The boat wasn't magical. But yet that was the only boat that was saved. Turn to 1 Peter 3. Talking about the only boat that saves. See, for my life, yes, I've been on the mission field to Sydney for 2 years, but I was converted in LA 5 years ago. And to the big thanks to my older brother Eric, he brought me in the church. And one of my biggest things that I had to give up was a full-time scholarship to the university that I really wanted to go to up north. The reason I had to give that up was simply because there was not a kingdom there. And education was everything to me. It was my way of escaping my family. But that was very minuscule to the thing that I had to really accept in my life. See, for me, growing up, my father passed away when I was 2 through HIV/AIDS. At 7, I was adopted. My mom, after he passed away, got into heavy drug use. Me and my brother were taken away to an orphanage for about a year. And then she passed away when I was 14. So when I was studying the Bible, I had to come to a realization that nobody challenged me on these things. But when I found out that I wasn't saved, that was not a big thing for me. I saw my life, I saw the wickedness I was in. That was easy to see. But the thing I had to accept was that my father and my mother were not saved. That I could have said if. But who am I kidding? That I knew when I got baptized, I had to have conviction. That on the day of judgment, my mom and father will be judged and sent to hell to be punished. Come on, bro. And I think about it like, who are you trying to defend? There's only one boat that saves. Don't try to deceive yourself. Who are you trying to defend? See that? I could have went past that and just not think about it, but no, I had to confront it because now it gives me a fear of God. That is there any false doctrines that you are tolerating in your ministry? Are there any false doctrines that you are tolerating in your family? The people that you are studying with? Even in your own heart? You know, in 1 Peter 3, 19 through 21, it talks about the salvation that came with Noah. It says, after being made alive, he went out and made proclamation to the disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah, while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. And this water symbolized baptism that now saves you also. Not the removal of dirt from the body, but a pledge of clear conscience towards God. I think this has to be one of the biggest understatements in the Bible. If we look at the whole world and we said only a few were saved, maybe we'd be like, oh, maybe at least 1 million. 1 million had to be saved. It's like, no. Maybe 10,000. It's like, no. Only 8 were saved in the entire world. Doesn't that just produce fear in your heart right there? It says here that only 8 were saved back then. And it says back then how it was there is how it's going to be now. That we're not drawing any lines. God already has made the judgment and had made the declaration. That only people who have been made into a disciple, having that clear conscience, that true repentance, and baptized for the forgiveness of sins will be saved on judgment. That is it. There was no other boat that saved. It was only that one boat. And only 8 were saved. Think about it. God is okay with having a small population in heaven. He's okay with that. All he cares about is having the righteous there with him. He doesn't want to convince you to try to love him. He wants you to get to heaven. You already have fallen in love with him. That's what he wants in heaven. I think about it. You know, you don't have to turn there, but in Luke 17, the thing that is fearful in my heart the most, it says here in Luke 17:26, just as it was in the days of Noah, it will also be in the days of Son of Man. People were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving into marriage up to the day that Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all. It says here that when the flood came, it was a day like any other day. People were eating, they were just having a good time. And I couldn't think about that. That Noah must have been going through his critics all the time. That whole entire time he was building that ark, not when it rained. And so most people, it says that he wasn't just an ark builder. It describes him being a preacher for righteousness. That whole entire time, he's trying to preach the word of God, and yet still he only saved 8 people. And it was a day like any other day. Have you ever missed an opportunity you wish you can go back on? I think for myself, like I talked about previously, my mother did pass away when I was 14. I had one of the most challenging conversations I've ever had in my life with my stepmom. My mother, she was dying of HIV, and what happens is your immune system fights against you, pretty much. And my mom talked to me, and my stepmom, she said, I had this opportunity to see her for the very last time. And she said, this is going to be the last time you're ever going to see her. She's only going to be pretty much skin and bones. And this was about 3 days after my birthday. And so I showed up, expecting to have birthday presents, and expecting to, have a celebration or something. Yet, my mom was just laying there sick. And I was so ungrateful at that moment that because I didn't get anything, I actually didn't speak to her the very last time I saw her. And it was too late to jump on that boat now. Are you waiting too long to jump on the boat that God has made for you? If you're not afraid of God, I'm just going to say, you're stupid. If you don't have a faith or a fear in God, I don't know what the Greek word for idiot was, but I'm pretty sure that would describe you at this point.
Come on, Sean.
When you have a fear, that is what keeps you saved. That is what gets you on the right boat. I think of people coming in here today. Do you have hidden sin in your life? Do you have hidden sin in your life? Are you too busy just playing with fire? Yeah, Manila is baptizing and doing awesome things, and we are inspired around the world. But if you personally are just involved in sin and not being open about it, how foolish are you? Point number one, you need to be blameless in faith and fear. I want to challenge every single person today. If you have hidden sin in your life, do not leave this building until you get with somebody, your discipler, and confess everything you have in your heart. There's only one boat that saves, and it is for the righteous. I want you to get with that person and confess everything. Even if you are a leader, and you have held bitterness or feelings towards somebody else, get with that brother, get with that sister, and really confess. There's no point of being on the same boat and hating each other. You need to be unified. And as well, if you are visiting here today, I want to beg you, I want to just beg you on my knees. Please find out what it means to get on the boat that saves. Get with the person who invited you out today. Ask them, what does it really mean to be made into a Christian? Point number 2, blameless in works and worship. Turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Blameless in works and worship. You know, in the making of the ark, it is estimated that it took Noah about 60 to 70 years to make. Most people were under the conception that it took 100 years. But if you look at the genealogy of his sons, and most think that Shem was his eldest son, there's kind of debate there, but he was 100 years old 2 years after the flood. But then when Noah was starting to make the ark, God was already mentioning your sons and his wives. So it goes to show that he was not just born at that time, but that he already had a wife when Noah started to build the ark. So that's why it's saying it was about 60 to 70 years that Noah built this ark. So we look at that, and we're like, wow, God called Noah to work really, really hard for him. Good for you, Noah. That sounds like a great charge for you, bro. But we're going to read here, what actually do we do as well? What's our role in the kingdom? In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, just verse 9, I only need one verse for this. It says, for we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field, God's building. That's all I need. It says here that we are co-workers. We are the same as Noah. That when God was actually looking for somebody to build the ark, somebody to build his kingdom here, God didn't look for the most skilled. He just randomly found Noah. But the thing you have to remember, though, is that the ark was built by an amateur. The Titanic by professionals. And only one saved. I think what real work is, it's not building a boat that floats, but it's building a boat that saves. Building a church, building a kingdom, where our conversions are described as fruit that lasts. I think the ark didn't have any lifeboats or safety requirements. The Titanic didn't have enough. When the Titanic crashed, 2/3 of them died. And I think about it. Building a church, it is so... Baptizing is such a small part of the ministry, to be honest. Because it says God's going to do that. And anything God's given, he's going to do great. And I think God has done great things here in Manila. But what it really means to be part of God's field, in God's building, is keeping people saved. Building a church where they are safe and they are saved at the end of their lives. The Bible does describe that people are going to fall away, and it doesn't make it hurt any less. But we understand that's going to happen. But I've gone through my own lesson about fallaways in my own ministry. Yeah, I've taught them lessons, but I learned I did not teach them to obey. Quite a difference there. I remember I did all the first principle studies, yet I did not teach them what they really needed in their heart after that. And I heard Manila has gone through some fallaways as well. It's been a challenge. But we are not here to do God's work. God's going to bring the fruit. You guys are some pretty good seed scatterers. I can just see God growing all these things. But we need to build a church that saves the people that we convert. We need to build a boat that when somebody gets baptized, They know they are there to the end. Family to the end. So turn to Genesis chapter 8. See, what is God really looking for in Noah? See, he is described blameless in works and worship. See, Noah worked 60 to 70 years on this ark and only 8 were saved. But here we're going to see how God responds to what Noah did. In Genesis 8, just verse 1, it says, "But God forgot Noah and all the wild animals." Is that what your Bible says? No. It says, "But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark, and sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded." Drop down to verse 15. It says, "Then God said to Noah, 'Come out of the ark, you and your wives and your sons' wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it.' So Noah came out, together with his sons and his wives and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that moved along the ground, and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, taking some of the clean animals and clean birds. He sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, 'Never again will I curse the ground because of humans. Even though every inclination of human heart is evil from childhood, and never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done.'" See, I remember I told you, God knows how to reward. No matter what storm you go through, if you are with God, there's always a rainbow waiting at the end. Here it describes, why was Noah really saved? It was not just because he built the boat. See, he could have built the boat, but God could have allowed it to hit a mountain or something. No, it was because his heart and his focus on worshiping God. It was because this is what God wanted all along. When he smelled that pleasing aroma, he forgot all the other things. He says, "Never again will I judge the way I've judged," because of that one thing, your act of worship towards me. I think, what does it really mean to be saved? It's not just about being on the boat. It's having that relationship with God. Is having that relationship with God. See, just because you're in the ICC does not automatically mean you're going to heaven. Just because you got on the boat doesn't mean all that. It is simply your relationship with God that's going to get you there. You could be baptizing the multitudes. Yet if you have lost your heart for God, how foolish are you? And it's sad to say, people that have shown up here tonight are going to be showing up on Sunday. Members of this church have already decided to fall away. There are some even in this room that probably have already counted in the heart that they want to fall away. And it's not because they haven't seen the miracles that you guys are doing in the church. It's because they have lost their first love. Now, I really want to beg you guys, how is your relationship with God? See, the thing that made Noah separate from everybody else and blameless was that exact thing. Where right when he got out of the ark, the first thing he did was sacrifice to God. And it wasn't like he got the firstborn of the sheep. He got one pair of the 7 sheep that were left. There was a great sacrifice that he gave to God. I want to ask you, how is your relationship with God? I want to challenge everybody here today to never, ever miss a quiet time. You probably heard 100 lessons by the time you've only been baptized 2 months about quiet times. There is a reason. This is the only thing that's going to keep you saved. You guys are blessed with a lot of people that have been restored and people that are older of the faith. And the only thing that's going to keep you saved and not falling away like so many others is your relationship with God. So I really want to challenge everybody here that if you have missed a quiet time in the past 2 weeks, talk to your discipler about that. Get open. And say, hey bro, I'm sorry, I've already got into the condition of quitting. Because quitting is a habit. If you've done it once, it's easy to do it again. So I want you to be like Noah here and to have a true relationship with God. Noah, blameless among the people of his time. Point 1, blameless in faith and fear. I want to challenge everybody again that if you have any hidden sin or any hidden feelings, get with the person, get with your discipler, and really be open about your life. Point number 2, blameless in works and worship. You can be baptizing anybody, but if you lost your love for God, it is all meaningless. I want to challenge you to never, ever miss your quiet time again. And with that, you can also be called a hero of faith. Thank you.